Good afternoon and happy Saturday. Welcome to the Weekend Wellness Hour. Today, we have a special guest, Dr. Michelle Robin, who I met through another physician, Dr. Felicia Fro, a friend of mine who I met through the investing world. And she introduced me to Dr. Robin a few months ago, and we had a nice connection. And she is a wealth of information. Dr. Fro had told me a little bit about her background in the wellness sphere and how much she has done to improve people's health over the past 3 decades. So I wanted to bring Dr. Robin on today to help give you guys a little bit more of a holistic approach, a well-rounded approach to wellness and how to improve your health. So thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Robin.
Amy, thanks for having me, and thanks to Dr. Fro for the introduction.
It's wonderful. So now I'd love to dive into your background a little bit. So we know that you started in chiropractic and you have merged since then. And I know that you are a speaker, you're an author, you have a healing center. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got started?
Well, sure. Like most people in medicine, not all, but most people in medicine, we have a significant event that helps us make a decision on what's next for us. And at the age of 15, I got hurt playing sports, playing basketball, the best sport there is, and went to the hospital. Nothing was broken. Lived in a small town, Parsons, Kansas. My mother took me to the chiropractor, who I happen to know because I taught his kids bowling lessons. And so that was my really big start. Actually, we had a neighbor when I was a kid living in California that was also a chiropractor. I could not tell you his name or anything about that experience, but I can tell you the experience I had with Dr. John and his wife, Carol, is they started pouring hope in me. You know, sometimes you don't know you're hopeless until someone starts to remind you what hope looks like. Yeah. And I was a young, 15-year-old trying to navigate life like most people had drama and trauma. And they started pouring thoughts in me. I don't really remember anything about the chiropractic experience, the adjustment, remember zero about that. But I do remember how they started teaching me that I could be anything I thought I could be. Yeah. And so chiropractic is so much more than the adjustment, even though the adjustment is super important. And so that was an example of how I got pulled into the chiropractic lifestyle. And so that's how it started.
That's wonderful. And so you went to chiropractic school and you had your own practice, right? You started kind of that traditional build your own business route. Is that right?
Yeah. So I worked for I ended up working for Dr. Lakin for a few years while I was in chiropractic college, a junior college. And then I'm not a very big chemistry person. At least I'm better than I used to be. But at the age of 18 in college, I didn't think I could do it. And so my teacher actually told me I couldn't do it either. And so I actually have an undergrad in business. And I'm really probably a minister in a chiropractor's life. Minister, marketer in a chiropractor's life. But so I ended up going to get my undergrad in business and accounting. And then into my senior year, I thought, well, I really want to be a chiropractor. I was away from it for about a year and just really missed it. It's such a magical medicine if people could put down their bias for a little bit and have the chiropractic experience, especially with the right practitioner. And so I ended up going to chiropractic school in Kansas City, which is about 2.5 hours from Parsons, Kansas. And people may not be aware that chiropractic, there's only about 17, 18 schools across the country. At least there were 17 when I was in school. I don't know how many there are now. It's been a couple of decades, as you mentioned. And I just fell more and more in love with the whole philosophy. And I would tell you, so I became a chiropractor. I also, at the same time, became an acupuncturist. Many people may not know that I have a lot of acupuncture. And the acupuncture philosophy really merges nice with chiropractic because it's about whole person health. And in chiropractic, our founder, Dr. Palmer, he said there's 3 T's that keep people stuck: trauma, thoughts, and toxins. So think about that back in the late 1800s, that's what they were teaching: traumas, thoughts, and toxins. And you think about what keeps people stuck. And then you look at stuck going into acupuncture, Chinese medicine theories about this whole person health too: mechanical, chemical, energetical, psychospiritual. And so they really overlap nicely for me. And if you understand Chinese medicine and the meridians, whenever you are palpating along the spine, you're actually stimulating a key meridian that's associated with all the other organs called the bladder meridian. And so they just perfectly matched for me. And that was my next mentor, Dr. Richard Yenny, who helped bring acupuncture to America. And so back in the early 90s, I was one of the few people, not few, most of the time when people were getting acupuncture, they're getting from a chiropractor. And so in Kansas City, I did a ton of acupuncture as well as chiropractic. And then I decided to bring in acupuncturists to work with me. And so it helped really even just embed that next level of whole person health. So once again, chiropractic is designed to be whole person health. Unfortunately, back in the 80s, we wanted to be in insurance. And so in order to be in insurance, you had to be pigeonholed into a specialty. And so a lot of chiropractors became pain docs instead of lifestyle and whole person health docs. So that's a little bit of it. And here I am, gosh, hard to believe, I'm getting ready to start my 29th season. So
wow, that's amazing. So now, was it the study of acupuncture that kind of led you from just chiropractic into now looking at wellness and whole well-being, or what was that process?
I think it was just the next step on my ladder. I think Dr. Lakin really planted the thought in my head about the thoughts you have. And so if you look at probably the most powerful thing you could do to be well is your thoughts. You got to believe you can get well. You've got to believe the body was designed to be well. I was with a patient this morning. I saw patients this morning, and this patient said to me, she's 60, and she said, I thought I was going to live in pain forever. We had our 1 month anniversary today. She was, I'm like 90% better. And I thought I was just going to live like that forever. And people lose that hope and they think it's age. And it's really the way you take care of this vehicle. So I believe that Dr. Lakin planted a seed, and then the philosophy of acupuncture watered that seed. And then you have the next phase of spirituality, watering it at a deeper level, and then all the nutrition pieces that have all come together for me. So that's kind of it. Chiropractic, acupuncture, always with a trickle of spirituality, because that's my jam, and then nutrition.
That's amazing. So did you bring people in to help you learn those other aspects, like nutrition and spirituality? You said that's kind of your thing, but like the nutrition part, did you bring people in, or did you study it yourself with a mentor?
I brought people in, which became some of my mentors, my teachers. So in 2006, I started practicing in 92. And then in about 2006, I remember clearly thinking people aren't having the same results they used to have. And I believe that there's just such a load of stress, whether it was chemical, mechanical, energetical, or psycho-spiritual stress. And so I was trying to decide what was my next step. And if you kind of can take a deep breath and trust the universe knows your next step, then I had a young man that came on the scene, and then I hired 2 holistic nutritionists. And the 3 of them taught me a lot about holistic medicine and really nutrition, not holistic medicine, but really nutrition. And so that's when that happened, when I was at this pivotal point where I'm like, okay, either I quit practicing this because I wasn't helping people the level I wanted to, or I learn more. And so that time I learned more. And then I did go train. You forget how much training you have. And then I did go become a certified chiropractic wellness practitioner, probably one of the first 2 in the country, with Dr. James Chestnut. What people also realize, and you probably know this, Amy, being a physical therapist, is that we have the traditional medicine chiropractors, and then we have geriatric, pediatric, wellness, neuro. We have all those, but we're a smaller profession. So I became a certified chiropractic wellness practitioner, which really was a light bulb moment.
That's neat, because actually, and I don't even believe in physical therapy. I haven't heard anything similar to that, where you're a whole wellness type of person. In physical therapy, just general physical therapy, you kind of are supposed to look at the whole body. And I've taken it completely further. So I don't even do traditional PT anymore. I don't even consider it PT. And it just opens up a whole nother way of approaching someone, which I imagine you can understand, because we are not just one body part. We are not just one section or one region of our body. There's so much that nutrition comes into play. Like you said, your thoughts, they determine your brain neurochemistry, which determines how your body functions. So you kind of have to look at all those things if you want to really address someone's problem. So is that why you've become so passionate in, whole person health, or is there another driver?
I think the real driver is just my own childhood. And
Yeah.
I also believe it's my destiny. I believe that I had the life experience I've had up to date to be right where I'm at today.
Yeah.
And what drives me is kids. We've got to, and when I say kids, I mean really anybody 5 to 30. We've got to teach these young people that how you treat this vehicle matters. It's
Yeah.
like having a car. I don't know about you. I love to have a clean car. I cleaned my car today, which is something I do every week. I clean my car. I have a fresh tank of gas. I'm just ready for whatever the day brings. And so many people run on empty. They have no resilience. And so for me, I really feel like it's my calling to help kids under 30 take care of this vehicle so that when they have a child, they're hopefully minimizing or putting the odds in their favor that they have a healthy child.
Yeah.
I would think that it's got to be a little nerve-wracking as a young person today, especially when you see the rise of some of the with autism, autoimmune, anxiety, and those disorders. And I believe that we could put the kibosh on a lot of that if we realize that this vehicle we have is an amazing machine that needs good mechanics. It needs good chemistry. It needs good energy, and it needs good psychospiritual. And so that's why I do what I do. It's because I'm trying to get to the kids, because hopefully that they won't go through some of the things I went through as a child, because they have whole parents.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally understand that. I have a nephew who's in his early 20s and just actually spoke to him a couple days ago. And he grew up not believing that you should eat vegetables and healthy foods, anything like that. It was just eat, whatever you could, fast food, just as much junk food as possible. And the other day, he has shown me over the past year, he's really shifted. So he sent me a picture of a plate of vegetables that he ate, and it was absolutely adorable. I was very excited because he is shifting, and luckily he's changing in his early 20s. Sometimes it takes longer.
Yeah, it's magic. It's magic when they change. I had another young person. They said, you know what? I had no idea that I could feel so good.
Yeah.
So that's why I do
special. That's special. So can you dive into the quadrants of well-being and health that you touched on a little bit, but can you dive into those?
I sure can. So you can think about it in many ways. You can think about it like a car or like a business. And a good business has 4 aspects. It has operations, marketing, finance, and leadership. And the body has the same thing. The operating system is going to be the nervous system. The nervous system, of course, is housed by the brain and the spinal column. And off that spinal column, you got the spinal nerves. And so people have got to keep motion, else they lose function. And so you've got the mechanical aspect, and we got people now that are working from their kitchen tables or working from bed instead of having an appropriate workspace. And we're wondering why we're seeing a rise in neck, shoulder, and back issues, besides the stress. That's a whole nother thing. And so you've got this mechanical, and you've got to move it. So motion is lotion. And how can you create more movement into your daily life instead of becoming an office or a couch potato? So you got the mechanical aspect, and as a chiropractor, that's our jam. As a chiropractor, our job is to take care of fixations, and you've heard this before. Make sure that the vertebrae have some function in them and they have motion, because that down regulates the anxiety control center in the brain called the amygdala. So I get adjusted. I've been adjusted every 2 weeks since I was 15 years old. Get adjusted weekly now for many reasons, mostly because of the stress of seeing patients, on my body, as well as the emotional stress. And so there's ways to take care of it with exercise, with stretching. Of course, as you know, breath work gets all the quadrants, as well as chiropractic, massage therapy, things like that. And then you got the chemistry, and then the brain works with chemistry.
Yeah.
And you can adjust somebody all you want, but if you continue to let them pour in poor quality food in their body or on their body, the next thing you know, they're not functioning right. It's one reason why people have pain. So when people come in and they have systemic pain, you're like, oh, let's think about your nutrition.
Yeah.
So then the next part, and then that also looks at the medications people are taking, as well as the vitamins. And then you have the energy quadrant. Energy quadrant is kind of like air. You can't see it, but you can't live without it.
Yeah.
Like your phone. It's got EMFs. And then you have Then you have the psychospiritual, and that's kind of your thoughts, believing that there's something greater going on, believing in a higher power, believing that words matter,
Yeah.
believing that maybe your, divine design, your life is going the way it's supposed to go.
Yeah. So then now you have a wellness center or healing center. In your healing center, how does it work? Do people come in and just see one practitioner if they want to, or do they address all 4 quadrants? Is that up to them, or is that a program you have?
It's up to them and the provider. So at our center called Your Wellness Connection. Hi, that's my dog saying hello. It's
Hello.
Skylar. And so we have multiple practitioners, and people can determine what works for them. And so if people see me, typically they know that's my jam. It's hard for me to be a pop and go experience. There's nothing wrong with people that just want to get adjusted and go. It's not my jam, because I'm really in it for life. I want to see them truly transform their life for themselves and their kids and their grandkids. But some people just get acupuncture. Some people just do counseling. Some people just get massage. Some people just get facials. And some people just get chiropractic. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's wonderful. So now I'd like to talk a little bit about your books. You've written a couple books. So the one about the E factor, can you tell us a little bit about that? What is the E factor?
I'm actually going to tell you about the first one first.
Sure.
Because it leads into the E factor. So the first book, it's been out 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Wellness on a Shoestring, 7 Habits for a Vibrant Life.
Okay.
And somebody came to me, and actually my publisher, Unity, said, the CEO said, would you write a book on whole person health? Because Unity was founded on whole person health. And I said, okay, I'm not really a writer, but okay. And I just started thinking about, what do I continually teach people to do? The first one is rest, reflect, rejuvenate.
Yeah.
Sleep is non-negotiable.
Yep.
Grateful is non-negotiable. Taking time to play is non-negotiable. And that's kind of my 2021 goal, or end of 2020 goal, is playing. I forgot that part. And then the second one is breathe.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to move the lymphatics. You got to move the neurology. You've got to move the fascia. You get that better than anybody. You're probably one of the most brilliant people I know. And then you've got move. You got to move your body. You got to move your spine. Mm-hmm. And then you've got here's probably the magic of the first book. It's called Free Your Space. This is chapter 4, and it's how do you declutter not only your mind, but declutter your heart, and declutter your diet, and declutter your space. So it's free your space, and you have different spaces, and the most important space, I believe, people can heal is they can free is their heart. Yeah. Because once you love yourself, then you'll do all the things. I'm guessing most people know the things that people teach them. I know when I have guests on, to me, it's like, oh yeah, same old stuff, but it's who's going to hear which teacher. And, but I really, once again, from my own experience, when I healed my heart, when I started to love myself and realize that every moment is a gift, and that I have as much right to be here as anybody else on the planet. And that I actually have a moral obligation to be here because I believe in God, that God put me on earth for a reason. And so, but then you start to say, you know what, I know when I eat that way, I don't feel so good. So you start to be more intentional about, like your nephew, about what you eat. And then the next chapter is go for the greens. It's really hard to be well, if not impossible, to be well when you don't eat real food, and you don't eat live. And the next one, of course, is sunshine, and get your vitamin D and essential fatty acids. We know the actual brain has been shrinking. Is it because of technology? Is it because of lack of sleep? Is it mostly because probably went to a fat-free diet? And who knows, probably a combination. So people need essential fatty acids, and they also need vitamin D. And then the last part is drink to your health. People don't hydrate. And I always say, do you want to be a grape or do you want to be a raisin? So, it's important as a young person to hydrate. A lot of people always say to me, how do you have such great skin and you're in your 50s? You know what? I drink water.
Yep. That's simple.
It's simple. It's not simple. It's not easy, but it's simple.
Yeah.
So the 7 habits. And as I was traveling around the country, teaching about that book, I was like, these are so simple. Why don't people do them? And that led to my second book called The E Factor, Energize, Engage, Energize, and Enrich. And it's really about my story, and it has the quadrants of well-being. It's probably the best book that will tell a lot about these habits. Yeah. And I broke it down thinking, okay, how do you get engaged in the journey? Mm-hmm. You get engaged by having a purpose. It's really important to tap into. I don't believe that you can put. And the next question is, what's your why? Why are you here? You engage by having, you got your purpose, and then the why you. You say if you know the why, it's much easier to comply. And then the next one is what's your path? And that's probably the hardest one because there's so much out there about what to do, especially now in health and wellness.
Yeah.
I got a funny story, so remind me where we're at.
Okay.
Are you, by the way?
I'm not. No, I might just be on your side.
Okay. So can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. So the this is so funny. One of my clients told me about this. Thanks, Kathleen. This has been the highlight of my week when I was talking about these 4 things through COVID-19. You're going to come out 4 ways. Okay. And I've been watching this, but I was talking 3 ways. You know, you either went in as if nothing changed. The next one is you said, you know what, I'm going to take this time. I'm going to take back control of my life because it's been out of control. And the third one, you said, oh, what the F, you know, it doesn't matter. I'm going to, you know, stay up all night, watch Netflix, eat Cheetos or whatever. And next thing you know, you've got the COVID-19, but you have the weight, not the symptoms. And so I like what she said better. She and her husband read an article and I saw her and I'm like, God, you look great. She said, I dropped 20 pounds. And I said, tell me more. She goes, well, at the beginning of COVID, we read an article and it said, you're going to get through COVID 1 of 4 ways. And this way is much more fun than mine. Number 1, you're going to be a monk. Number 2, you're going to be a chunk. Number 3, you're going to be a hunk. Number
oh my
4,
gosh.
you're drunk. And that is true. A lot of people are drinking more. So as people are dialing in this right now, you think about what's my plan? This is where I want to go. You know, I want to be a person that has vibrancy. I want to be a person that brings energy into the relationship, the room. Yeah. I want to be a person that matters, that's significant. And in order to do that, you got to have life in your life. You got to have more energy and more life. And so the plan is really where the quadrants come in. Okay, what am I going to do mechanically, chemically, energetically, psychospiritually? And realize I know people who pray a lot, Amy, who aren't well. You probably do too.
Yep.
I know people who exercise a lot. They're marathon runners or whatever, triathlons or whatever, bikes, doing whatever they're doing. And they're not well. And I know people who are vegan and they're not well. It's the magic of all those together. And it makes it go through life more smooth. That's where the car analogy would come in, all 4 tires. And so in that book, the E Factor, it had those 4 things. Once again, engage, kind of what's your purpose? Why is that your purpose? Mm-hmm. What's your plan? And the next part of engage is who's your tribe? No one goes it alone. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you. It's much more easy for me to exercise, eat clean, have more fun if I'm around people like that.
Yeah.
If I'm around people that say, oh, Michelle, doesn't matter. Just have another gluten-filled pizza or something like that. It's like, you know I don't feel good. So the next one was Energize. And when you take care of yourself, you have more energy. And when you have more energy, you are here, you have the wherewithal to do what you're given to here to do in life. And I call it kind of resilience. Mm-hmm. I believe that people that are struggling through this time, they already had low resilience bucket. They already, it was already full. That bucket just said, you know what, I can't do one more thing. And this was the straw that broke the camel's back. And that happens so many times when we eat bad food. It's just like, I've been eating this way my whole life. Well, your body said enough's enough. Or I've been sitting on my hiney and not working out, and your body said enough's enough. Or I've been thinking about, listening to Who Done Me Wrong songs my whole life, and sooner or later it's Who Done You Wrong. So that, but it gives you more energy, and we get energy through the people around, through the food we're eating, through the stuff that's around us, through our animals. And then once you have energy and you're engaged, you want to figure out, how do I enrich? I don't know about you, you're giving up a Saturday afternoon. I'm giving up a beautiful Saturday afternoon because we're hoping that one person hears this message and says, I've decided I'm going to not be a chunk, and I'm not going to be a drunk through this time period. And so you figure out how to enrich. So that's my first 2 books.
That's fascinating. And I totally believe that. One of the reasons why I have this on the weekends is we spend a lot of time during the week. We have our routines. We're like, okay, I'm going to be strong, follow my diet, follow something. And then the weekend comes and it's like, woof, just let everything go. And I'm going to be free, willing. And so part of the reasons I have this on the weekend is to try to get people, okay, let me just at least think about one aspect of wellness or something, just to kind of rein them back in so they don't go so far over the edge in terms of just letting everything go. So I really appreciate everyone who comes on here, because yeah, you are working to enrich someone's life and in a way that sometimes we don't even know. Sometimes you're just an inspiration.
Well, think about all the people that's poured into you.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
I call it paying it forward. People have poured into me, and I'm getting ready to do a 40 days of gratitude starting on November 23rd. And so just and even if you just start to think about the people that poured into you, that will change your neurotransmitters.
absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the things you were talking about earlier about healing the heart is I often have a conversation with people about if you think about something that was really magical in your life and you can remember how it felt in your heart, try to do that every single day. Even with the small things, try to feel that same feeling. And it just shifts you because all of a sudden, like you said, you feel the gratitude, you feel love. And it's like, how do you not want that in your life more and more and more? So, yeah, I appreciate
Hey,
that.
have you ever looked up the word well-being?
Not specifically.
If you look it up in the dictionary, well-being
Mhm.
equals happiness.
Oh,
Who doesn't want more happiness? And I can promise you, you're not going to get it being around the wrong people
yeah.
and the wrong food and the
Yep.
wrong thoughts.
Yep. Absolutely. So when we look at your career, you've had so much going on. You have a lot of awards, amazing, which I can see because you're constantly growing. You exude a person of growth who looks to explore aspects of health and wellness. So what are some of your highlights in your career?
Gosh, that's such a great question. I would say, let me think on that one. I really didn't think enough about that question.
Yeah.
I would say, well, let me just kind of go with what comes up is we have a foundation called the Big
Mhm.
Shifts Foundation.
Okay.
Started a few years ago.
Yeah.
And it's to make generational change 5 to 30-year-olds.
Okay.
I'd say a highlight is that some really phenomenal leaders have come alongside me and said, you know what, we believe enough in you to invest our time when they don't have the most important gift you give people is your time.
Yeah.
And so that is huge. I would say just the opportunity to mentor people, mostly women. I have a few men, but mostly women that I mentored, some young women. I have a picture in my office. It's probably gonna make me emotional, but I just did this. My office was kind of stale, and I just brought in somebody a year ago to feng shui it. And she said, there's nothing in here that really represents you. You have some words, but there's not even a picture. And so I had a picture. One of my mentors came to Kansas City, Carol Phillips. She's amazing. And I had a dinner, I had a brunch for her on a Sunday, and I invited a bunch of my old associates over, and who she had taught cranial sacral therapy and pediatric and pregnancy chiropractic. And so I invited them, and now whenever I'm adjusting, it's right there in front of me. So if I'm facing here, it is right there. I look at that every day, and I think about those young women who are out in the world doing good stuff. And even though we have rocky relationships, the thing people don't realize is you're just human. You're just trying to grow and make decisions. And, I've been doing this since I was 25. And so I've made a lot of bad decisions. I've made a lot of good decisions.
Yeah.
And it's usually around the way I invest my time with people. So I'd say that's a highlight. Having the mentors I've had, here's a highlight, and is I have had a few people that I've worked for. Everybody I've worked for is still in my life. Okay, if they're not in my life, they're deceased.
Yeah.
And I've had 3 mentors. The men, the women are still alive, by the way, that were kind of partnered with these mentors. But the 3 men who have been pivotal in my professional career, who all died, I did their eulogies. I did 2 of the 3 eulogies.
Oh, wow.
And wow, what an honor to be able to share that. So I say that's a highlight in my career, is that the people, not enough me, but also to people, I think I'm an LTR person. Have you heard of LTR?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, it's kind of lifetime relationships.
Okay.
And if you think about going into a relationship with even a patient or client, whatever you call them,
Yeah.
And you go in with that mentality, it's a different relationship.
Yeah.
And so the people that I worked for, it was a lifetime relationship. They poured into me. I stayed in touch with them. I talked to them 2 to 3 times a year, until they died.
That's awesome.
So that's a highlight for me.
Yeah. And I like that approach because when I work with someone, I tell them I am here for you. That means they typically have my cell phone, they can email me. I want them to learn as much as possible. And it's not just because I'm just addressing their needs right now. I want them to learn forever. And so no one can take that away from them. So I get what you're saying, because if you find the right people to have a relationship, why not have them in your life for the rest of your life, whether it's business, friendship, client, whatever. If you can show and be vulnerable and show that you really do care to help them on their journey, why not keep that connection?
Yeah, I think this week I would add a caveat. That I lost one of my animals this week, and they're like my kids, and I think they teach us things. And the gift I got from my animal is, I love you, and I can hear her channeling to me, I love you. I just wish I would have seen you. You would have been more present with me. And so I'm going to say LTRs with boundaries, because people also need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, and they need to take responsibility. And so, and no one, it's irresponsible as a practitioner to let somebody be codependent on you.
That's true.
And I believe that I've not been so great at that. So that's something I'm working really hard at. And in the rest of 2020, I'm going to maximum. I'm not going to wait till 2021, but how do I have more fun? And how do I also have better boundaries?
It makes sense. That completely makes sense. So as we kind of move into the talking about wellness, what are like your main tips that you give to people?
Well, it really goes back to that first book, Wellness and Shoestring, 7 Habits.
Okay.
You've got to sleep. And the studies show that it's great for your mental health. It's great for your immune system. It's great to keep weight off. Sleep is key. If you're having sleeping problems, you need to figure that out. I would say that's huge. It's hard to be present when you're tired. It's hard not to, it's hard for your body to do its job. People get more pain. So I would say right up their sleep, hydration, being grateful that you could walk. I don't know about you. I've had an accident where I couldn't walk for a while, and you're like, whoa, I think I took that for granted. Or even breathing, that we have the ability to breathe. That we have the ability right now. I'm grateful that we have the ability. You're in another state and I'm in another state, and we're able to have this conversation through some type of technology that's streaming it, reaching, whether it's 5 people or 5 million people. You're reaching that one person that's going to take one thing from today's talk and go, I could do that. So I forgot the question.
Just some of your non-negotiable tips.
Okay. So yeah, gratitude. I love gratitude. It's one of my favorite. My favorite holiday is Thanksgiving. So I'm glad it's coming up.
Yes.
Moving, the studies show that moving really helps you in all levels. Of course, vitamin D right now, especially with K, unless you're on a blood thinner. But my top 3 are going to be hydrate, gratitude, and sleep. And then, of course, the next 4, heal your heart. What we talked about earlier with Wellness and Shoestring, that's my non-negotiable sleep.
Those are, okay. So I'm curious, has your approach to chiropractic changed as you've dove more and more into wellness and the quadrants? Like when you're working with someone one-on-one, they're coming in for an adjustment, or, they have some type of pain. Has your approach to chiropractic adjusted because of your knowledge has expanded?
Yeah, I've realized what a big deal it is. I became a chiropractor because of Dr. John loving me really and showing me a new way of life. And Dr. Yenny talked about acupuncture. But, I really didn't learn the power of the nervous system. People will say, I feel good. They get adjusted like, oh my gosh, I feel better. I'm like, well, I thought you felt good. Well, it's just like I almost everything got turned on again. And when I studied with Dr. James Chestnut, he's a chiropractor out of Canada, he showed me the neural pathways. I meant to actually print it and be able to show you today, but I didn't, I forgot. But it showed the neural pathways of how the whole nervous system works. if people really, you know how you like your phone, and I don't know about you, I like it when it has 4 bars instead of 2 bars, because I'm able to communicate more effectively. And the body's the same way.
Yeah.
And so I would say I'm a better chiropractor. I value the power of the adjustment more. I probably lean on treating people too little. There's 2 sins in chiropractic: not enough treatments and too much. I probably lean on not enough, just because I'm busy. So sometimes I have to refer them to one of my partners. But I would say, here's what I'd say, is if you knew what I knew, you'd do what I do. And I've been on no medication since I was 15 years old, except for when I had that bad accident for just a few days. Not taking antibiotics. I mean, get that. No medicine. I don't take antibiotics. I've not taken, I don't take a blood pressure medicine, cholesterol medicine, diabetes medicine, hormones. I've done none of that for 40 years.
It's incredible.
That is incredible. I have missed 1 day of work in 29 years because of food poisoning.
Wow. So,
I think about one of my mentors. I think it was either Steve Hayes or Jack Semley. I don't remember. They were both on the stage, and they said if your patients knew what you knew, they would do what you do. Yeah. And so I just have to think. And I'm not trying to. I want people to get that this lifestyle is not. It doesn't cost a lot to be well. It costs a lot to be sick.
Yeah, it does.
So that's how it changed. I actually realized the power of the adjustment is way more and powerful than I realized my first 10 years.
That's incredible. Yeah, most of the chiropractors I know are very passionate about what they do. And I believe that with most health professionals, I always feel like they have a secret. It's like, what is their secret? Kind of like what you just described. And that's why I try to interview people of all different professions. I'm like, okay, what is your secret? What is it that you know that can help people that we don't know, that we haven't had the chance or the time to study? I mean, that's really what it comes down to is, do you have the time to study all these things? And we have to kind of rely on each other to help bring that education to all of us.
It's like friends in food. I always say it either lifts you up or it tears you down. And so you have to have a trusted resource of people around you that help you. That's why I've got a great acupuncturist around me. I've got great psychiatrists. I've got great MDs. I believe it takes all of us, especially in the pot of stew mess we are in right now and have been in for, this is not just a COVID issue we're in. We were in a mess before COVID. It's going to take all of us to get out of the mess we've created over the last 3 or 4 decades for our kids. Once again, this is for our kids. And if you, and I get chills telling you this, I have 2 nieces pregnant right now with my greats. And I've got to do it for them, for my greats, because I'm worried about the environment. So I love it. I love that. If you knew what I knew, you do what I do. And what the secret sauce is, you won't find very many chiropractors that don't like what they do unless they're playing the insurance game. Yeah. That's a bad game to play, unless they are in it for the almighty dollar. It's okay to make a living. At the end of the day, I don't recommend something that I don't think people need. Yeah. Not just, I could sell so much stuff, Amy. But the reason I have trust is because I don't do that. Yeah. So, exactly.
I totally agree. And we appreciate that because we just in general need to find practitioners who really are based on how can I educate you and teach you to take care of your own health. That's what it comes down to.
And it's not, and I know it. I want to tell you, after all these years, it's not that hard. No. It's really not that hard. You don't need to take 30 supplements. You don't need to buy the magic, this and that. You need to take time to sleep. You need to take time to drink your water, take time to be grateful, take time to move, which most of those are pretty free. We've got good water in America. If you're in another country, a whole different can of worms. Yeah. So anyhow, it actually baffles me. It's kind of makes me think of, there's a story, I don't remember the whole story, but it talks about, I'm going to put it someplace you'll never look. Maybe it was like how do you have peace in your life and happiness? I'm going to put it someplace you'll never look, inside yourself. Yeah. And so people need to really dig deep and look inside themselves and say, you know what? I have the power, not Amy, not Michelle, not Dr. Hyman. I mean, they've got information, but you are your own best doctor. Yep. You know what to do for yourself if you listen.
Yep. Our body talks to us every single day. We just have to listen to it and be open to listening. That's the biggest thing. Now, your wellness healing center, is it all in person or do you do virtual sessions? Obviously, the chiropractic part would be in person, but some of the other, it'd be a little bit hard, but some of the other services, is it all in person or do you do virtual sessions as well?
Yeah, it's called Your Wellness Connection.
Mhm.
And I remember exactly where I was standing when I thought of that name back in
Yeah.
1998, and it was Your Wellness
Mhm.
Connection. How do we help you be reconnected to you, to your
Yeah.
well-being? So it's interesting to watch that all come to fruition. What is that, 22 years ago, before
Wow.
wellness was even cool?
Yeah.
So anyhow, your question was virtual. Our therapist is virtual right now.
Okay.
We do some functional medicine virtually,
Nice.
but the chiropractic, acupuncture, body work,
Debbie.
some Reiki's done virtually, but it's
Mhm.
pretty much in person. We've been
Okay.
open. We've been essential since we've not been shut a day because of COVID. Thank God.
Yeah.
We've had one staff person with COVID,
Okay.
and that was recent. So I feel pretty lucky that we made it through this time without that. I do have patients that have been in now the last month, every day I see somebody who's had COVID.
Okay.
So I would tell you that we're in person and we do the right things. We mask up, we clean, we have a COVID protocol where we're taking vitamin D and zinc and omega-3s, things like that.
Yeah. Wonderful. That's great. So how can people look up your center? What's your website?
Yourwellnessconnection.com. YOUR
Wonderful.
wellness, 2 L's, 2
Okay.
S's, connection, 2 N's.com.
Wonderful. And people can read about you there as well and kind of learn your story a little bit too.
They could. The best place to learn about me is to go to smallchangesbigshifts.com.
Okay.
That has 50 videos about the quadrants of well-being
Wonderful.
from different people, whether it's medical doctors, chiropractors, patients,
Mhm.
physical therapists, psychologists. We did a whole series on my 25th year to educate the community. So you can find a lot there, of course, on YouTube. And then we have
Mhm.
a podcast that you can find there as well called Small Changes, Big Shifts.
Right. Wonderful. Where you interview people in all different aspects of health, right?
Yeah, we had you on. You were on.
Yeah.
I just had Dr. Amit Sood he'll be on the show next week. If you want to listen to a phenomenal show, Dr.
Mhm.
Amit Sood, he's out of Mayo Clinic on resilience.
Mhm.
Home run. He's the only guest I've had on 3 times.
Wow.
Where I've actually interviewed him 3 times. Paul Young, who wrote the book Shack's been on, John O'Leary. I mean, I've been so blessed by the people that have come into my life. When I leave here off this conversation, I'm going to go do some self-care. And if my life's over, it's been really, really full.
That's great. It's a great way to have your day, to really have that perspective. And you can see that you are taking moments to have gratitude. You're realizing, what you've done with your life. You've been in a growth period. You've educated people. It's very neat to see. So we appreciate that. All of us that are benefiting from it.
Well, thank you. I've been to much is given, much is expected. So
Yeah.
I'm just paying it forward.
Well, thank you. And any last minute tips that you want to share with anyone? Anything we left out?
I would say if you can't do it for yourself, do it for your kids. I know several people will invest in their kids' well-being, not their own. And your kids are watching you, so they're going to turn around and do the same thing. And the only way we break the cycle is if you have your kids watch you and walk the talk. Talk the talk, walk the talk, be the example that you want the world to be. And next thing you know, you'll watch this magnificent life show up. And that's what I've done. I just have, I have enough time on my side now. And Amy, I cannot believe it's been, 29 years. It seems like yesterday that I started.
Wow.
But if you do something long enough and you truly practice it and embody it, especially this whole well-being message, it will change your journey like it has mine. My life is far better than I ever thought it would be.
That's wonderful. We need more people in the world like that, who feel that way, who have that gratitude and just have that full life.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Well, thanks for having me. You're doing great work.
Thank you. And I really appreciate you coming on, taking your time this afternoon to join us, share your tips, share your book, share your life. I really appreciate that because I know people have benefited from you. And I know that personally from several different people. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having. Hey, big heart to heart hugs.
Absolutely.
Stay well.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate you listening in. Have a great rest of your weekend. Please check out Dr. Robin's websites, yourwellnessconnection.com. Please check her out. She's a wealth of information. I've browsed through her stuff. I've listened to her podcast. Definitely worth a visit. Have a great rest of your weekend. Bye all.